This is the story of Phaethon and of his father Apollo, the sun god. When the world was very young, there lived in Ethiopia in Africa a Greek lad named Phaethon. The boy's father was the immortal sun god Apollo, one of the great gods who lived on Mount Olympus. His mother was Clymene, daughter of King Minyas, a king who reigned in Boeotia. From the time when Phaethon was just a little child, his mother told him again and again of the glories of Apollo. And even though the boy had never seen his divine father face to face, he was filled with great pride and love for him. As Phaethon grew older, Clymene often would point to the place where Eos, the goddess of the dawn, lighted up the sky. She would tell Phaethon that it was there that his immortal father dwelt.
See, my son, there where the dawn lights up the sky is where your father Apollo dwells. Each day he mounts his golden chariot and rides forth in great splendor as soon as Eos opens the palace gates. Oh, my son, such radiance is his that he lights up the entire sky. He is so bright that only the gods may look upon him without being blinded.
I know, Mother. I've watched the sun cross the heavens so many times. But, Mother, I wish I could really see my father. See him face to face, I mean.
I know, my son. And someday you shall. Someday.
Like all youths, Phaethon enjoyed boasting about his father to his schoolmates. But there was one among them, Epiphus by name, who taunted him when he boasted. For Epiphus was rumored to be a son of Zeus himself. And of course, Epiphus was proud to boast about his father, too.
Yeah! You say you're the son of Apollo, do you, Phaethon? Well, I am the son of Zeus, and Zeus is more powerful than Apollo. But you, how could you be the son of Apollo? Yeah! He's much too great a god to be your father.
But I tell you, Epiphus, he is. It's true. My mother told me so.
Yeah, mother. What does she know? You're a fool to believe her. She's just giving you false notions.
Hurt and angry, the lad rushed home to his mother and begged her to help him to prove the story.
Please, Mother, give me some proof so that I can answer Epiphus and the others. They won't believe me. They won't believe Apollo is my father, and every day they make fun of me. How can I prove it, Mother? How can I prove it?
Be not dismayed, Phaethon, for you are Apollo's son. I swear it by the bright orb of the sun itself. More than that I cannot do. But if you must have proof, there is a way. You must go to the eastern palace of Apollo and speak there with your father himself. The palace lies not far off, but the journey is not an easy one.
May I, Mother? May I really?
Yes, Phaethon.
Oh, thank you, Mother, thank you. I'll go get ready at once.
Clymene helped Phaethon prepare for his journey. And soon the boy started out to visit his father. He traveled toward the extreme east, to India, which lay directly under the sunrise. This is how the earliest Greeks pictured the earth. They thought that if one went far enough east, he would come to the very place where the sky touched the earth, and the sun began his daily ascent. Each day Apollo would guide his golden chariot, drawn by 4 fiery steeds, up the high vaults of the heavens. The path was narrow and very steep, and the great horses were wild and strong. Apollo had to keep a firm hold on them as they made the ascent. By high noon, when he had reached the very top of the sky, Apollo would stop to look about him, making certain that all was well. Nothing escaped his piercing eyes. Once assured that all was well, he would drive on. The horses were anxious to be on their way, for already on ahead, far to the west, they could see the glittering evening palace, and eager to reach their stables there, they raced furiously downhill on their course. When Apollo and his foaming team arrived at the Western Palace, the shadows had lengthened, and dusk already had settled over the world. Then Apollo's 5 daughters, the Heliades, who awaited him, unharnessed the weary horses and led them to the ocean for a cooling bath. Then the horses would go to their stables to rest, and Apollo would tell his daughters all he had seen that day. When the night was dark, Apollo and his team would board a ship of gold. They would sail around the world and back again to his eastern palace to start his journey the next day. After he had taken leave of his mother, Phaethon walked and walked. At length he saw sunbeams of bright gold pouring through clefts in the hills ahead. At last he saw the palace of his father up ahead. The palace of Apollo was dazzling to behold. It had beautiful tall pillars, glistening with bronze and gold. The roof was white with gleaming ivory. The great doors were of flashing silver, and the walls were covered with pictures of the earth, the sky, the sea, and the gods that dwelt in them. Quickly, Phaethon scrambled up the last steep hill, then on up the bright steps, passing unafraid through the silver doors into the throne room, which was ablaze with the presence of the sun. Here at last he was forced to turn away his face, for it was so bright that he was quite blinded. Apollo sat in state upon his golden throne, which glittered with diamonds and other precious stones. Dressed in rich robes of royal purple, he wore a radiant crown of sunbeams on his head. Phaethon covered his face, shielding his eyes from the dazzling brilliance. But Apollo, the sun god, recognized him as his son, and laying aside his radiant crown so that the boy would no longer be blinded by its brightness, spoke to him gently.
Welcome, Phaethon, my son. Come, tell me why you have journeyed so far from your home.
Oh, Apollo, my father, if you will permit me to call you father, I beseech you, light of the boundless world, give me some proof whereby I may be known by all to be your son. Help me to prove I am Apollo's son.
You are a fine son, Phaethon, and deserve not to be disowned. I am proud to call you my own, and do willingly attest to your origin. I confirm what your mother Clymene already has told you. Tell me, lad, what proof can I give you? Ah, I have it. To put an end to your doubts, just ask whatever you will, and the boon shall be yours. I swear it, and call to witness the river Styx, by which the gods give oath.
Oh, Father, there's only one thing that I want, and that is to be able to take your place for just one day. This is my wish, Father. Let me drive your chariot across the heavens just once.
Oh, come now, boy. That is the only request I would have refused you. But you know as well as I do that I cannot refuse, since I have sworn by the river Styx. If you persist, then I must yield. But I do not think you will once I tell you of the dangers of the ride. First of all,
But you promised, Father. You said any wish. You promised. And it's the only wish I want.
I know, Phaethon, but you know not what you ask. No one but myself can handle the horses. They breathe fire from their mouths and nostrils. The first part of the way is steep and the path narrow. Then you have to hold the horses in when you get to the middle, high up in the sky. There you will pass many monsters and beasts of prey, the bull, the lion, the scorpion, the great crab, and each will try to harm you. Worst of all is the descent, for it is so dizzying that the sea gods who wait to receive me wonder how I keep from falling headlong into the sea. Come, son, make another wish. You won't regret it.
No, Father, I have no other wish. I want only to drive your chariot across the sky just one time.
But Phaethon, it is not safe for you to do so. I spoke rashly, son. The boon you ask is too much for your youth and your strength. You aspire to that which not even the gods may do, not even the great Zeus himself. Only I may drive the flaming chariot of day. If I were to lend you my chariot, what would you do? How would you be able to keep your course with the lands moving under you and the whole sphere of heaven turning around you, carrying the stars with it? I have to be on my guard constantly, lest that movement which sweeps everything else along should also hurry me away. I beg you, Phaethon, choose more wisely. Recall your request, my son.
But the boy insisted. Reluctantly, when he saw that nothing else would satisfy the youth, Apollo gave in. He bade the Hours to bring forth his chariot and harness the horses. The chariot, which had space for but one man, was the gift of Hephaestus, the blacksmith of the gods. It was made of gold, and the gold-rimmed wheels had spokes of shimmering silver. Along the seat were diamonds which sparkled and reflected the brightness of the sun. Apollo anointed his son's face with a sweet-smelling, powerful salve, so that Phaethon would be able to bear the heat of the fire-breathing horses and the chariot. He hastened to give his son this final advice.
Here, Phaethon, I set these, my rays, upon your head. Remember, spare the whip. They will go fast enough on their own accord. And hold the reins tight. The labor is to hold them in. Look for the marks of the wheels. They will guide you, my son. And mark you, go not too high, or you will burn the heavenly dwelling.
Yes, Father.
Nor too low either, or you will set the earth on fire. Take the middle course. It is the safest and best. Come, Phaethon. Time grows short, and we can delay no longer. Already the moon is fading and the earth beginning to glow. Night is passing out of the western gates. Take the reins.
Phaethon sprang into the chariot and grasped the reins.
Goodbye, Father. Goodbye, and thank you.
Once the boundless plain of the universe lay open before them, the horses leaped forward with mighty strength, cleaving and scattering the clouds, and soon outrunning the morning breezes which had started from the same eastern gates. Feeling that the load they drew was lighter than the accustomed weight, the horses dashed headlong and sped on faster and faster, leaving the usually traveled road. And the chariot was tossed about as a light ship is tossed in a stormy sea. Hapless Phaethon, try as he might, he was powerless to control the steeds. Now, fully aware of his peril, he shook with terror.
Oh, I wish I'd never asked for this. What can I do? So much of the journey is still before me. May the gods have pity on me.
Now, thoroughly terrified, Phaethon saw all manner of monstrous creatures scattered over the heaven. Among them, the scorpion, its two great arms, tail, and crooked pincers extending over two signs of the zodiac, menacing with his poisonous stinger. At this, Phaethon's courage failed him, and he let the reins fall. Then the team bolted, and the masterless horses dashed madly among the stars, far into unknown regions of the sky. First, over pathless areas into high heaven, and then down almost to the earth itself, while Phaethon clung, panic-stricken, to the chariot rail. Then the clouds began to smoke. Mountaintops took fire, and grassy plains were scorched into deserts. Fields became parched and shriveled with the great heat. Trees burned to char. Plants withered. and the harvest blazed far and wide. Great cities perished in the flames, and whole nations and their people were turned to ashes. The peaks of Parnassus blazed fiercely, and even heaven-piercing Olympus was scorched by the fire. Scythia and Caucasus crackled in the heat, and the great snow-clad Alps and the Apennines, lost in the clouds, smoldered, and downward along their slopes the flames traveled to the low-lying valleys and forest lands. The rivers all smoked. Babylonian Euphrates, the Ganges, and the Tagus all bubbled and seethed, and the Nile fled and hid its head in the desert, where it still hides. Even the earth cracked open. The sea shrank, and where there was water, now was dry plain. And the mountains that lay beneath the waves lifted their heads and became islands. Earth, now surrounded by boiling waters, screened her face and pleadingly looked up to heaven, her voice parched with the heat. She called upon Zeus.
O great Zeus, hear me. If I have deserved this treatment, and it is your will that I perish by fire, why do you withhold your thunderbolts? I beg of you, let me at least fall by your hand. Is this the reward for my fertility, for my obedient services? Even my brother Ocean suffers with me. If earth, heaven, and sea all perish, then we fall again into ancient chaos. I beseech you, save what yet remains from this devouring flame. Grant us deliverance, O Zeus.
Overcome by the extreme heat, Earth could say no more. Zeus then called all the gods, including Apollo, to witness, showing them that all was lost unless something was done immediately. He arose from his throne and thundered. Brandishing a lightning bolt in his right hand, Zeus launched it against Phaethon and hurled him from the chariot. The chariot broke into countless pieces, and Phaethon, his hair ablaze, fell headlong like a flaming shooting star, down, down, down into Eridanus. Eridanus, the great river, received him and put out the flames that covered him. Then Apollo himself caught up the reins of the runaway steeds and led them to their stable. The clouds gathered again, and soon torrents of rain came down to extinguish the fires and to fill the rivers once more. Sick at heart, Apollo mourned the fate of his reckless young son. He vowed never again to permit anyone to drive his fiery steeds. As for the chariot, Hephaestus had to work throughout the entire night to mend it, so that Apollo could drive it again the next day. The Naiads lifted Phaethon's body from the river, and thinking it a pity for one so bold and daring and so young to die, built a tomb for him, inscribing these words upon the tomb: Driver of Apollo's chariot, Phaethon, struck by Zeus's thunder, rest beneath this stone. He could not rule his father's car of fire, yet was it much so nobly to aspire. Apollo, the sun god, ever mourned his son Phaethon, and kept his vow to never allow another to drive the fiery chariot. And to this day, none has driven the golden chariot across the sky save Apollo himself.